Hey guys, it's Sandra from Inspired Keys, and in today's video I am going to introduce a couple of rules, do's and don'ts for second keyboardists, specifically people who play pads. Pads can sound a little bit like the inferior keyboardist's job, but it is so important. Like, you can think of it as the atmosphere in the worship set. Really, you can have the whole band, but if you don't have a good second keyboardist to just cushion the worship atmosphere with a warm pad sound, the whole thing can fall apart and it might sound too dry, it might sound awkward. So when you have a good second keyboardist or a good pad keyboardist, it makes a world of difference. So if you're a second keyboardist and you kind of feel a bit like, you're like the inferior one, you are so not. So stay tuned because I'm going to share with you 4 sets of do's and don'ts. So the first set will be use everlasting 1 and 5 and don't use clean chords. So you might not have heard of what everlasting 1 and 5 is. I will link to a video below on what it means because I've taught it previously. But basically, if you have it in, you're playing the key of D, 1 and 5 would be D and A. Now you don't have to necessarily play it in this particular sequence. You could play it with like inverted like that or like that, but whatever it is, it primarily is just 1 and 5. There are exceptions to the rule, but it mostly works well with most chords. So if you were to play a very typical sort of second keyboardist, free worship kind of chord progression, which is 1 and 4 and 1 and 4, and I'm playing everything in the key of D major today, that would be D and G chord, D and G chord, then you do not want to play clean chords. And by clean chords, I mean something like, right? Because that's, I don't know, whenever it's something really clean, I like to think of it as it sounds like Mozart, right? And we don't want to sound like a classical piece in a contemporary worship atmosphere. So we want to use something like, instead of that, I would just gladly take away the F sharp and just have a 1 and 5 and just play that, or even take away the D on top and just have D and A, and that sounds good enough already. So this is how I will play the chord 4. Really just keep it at a very kind of simple kind of way. There's nothing that you need to play a whole lot really, and then I'll take away that little G at the bottom and then put it back in again. And it just sounds nice and calm like that. Now here's a really disastrous way to play clean chords. It's not terrible, but I just feel like it can be better. So that's the first set of do's and don'ts. Now the second set of do's and don'ts will be keep your top note still and don't move your top note around too much. So by moving around too much, it's something like, I mean, just pay attention to my topmost note. So here's a bad example. Right? Really, I'm just playing a whole bunch of 1 and 4s, but I've jumped around from low to mid to high, and that's just altogether really distracting. Now what I will do is keep my top note very, very still for a section of time and only switch it at maybe another moment when I build up a little bit more. So here is what I will do. And if you just look at what I'm playing now, my top note is really, really still. It's just on the D. Okay, now I want you to imagine I've played that about 4 times. Now I'm going to the next section and I'm going to introduce an A on top. And then I'm gonna just keep that A up there and I'm gonna just change it around too much because otherwise it's just too distracting. So I hope you will try that if you haven't tried it already. Now the third set of do's and don'ts will be sometimes if your pad is really warm, sparse chords are okay. And by sparse, I really mean just a few notes. So the don't for this case will be don't use chords that are too thick. So when I say thick, I mean like, or you know, you can see that I'm playing a lot of notes, but I'm repeating them so much that they're just kind of clouding up the chord and it doesn't sound good. So, or even just going too low, too thick at the low ranges. Definitely not. Don't think this works. Or, like, I don't even think this is necessary because that A at the bottom here, it's just kind of thickening things up a bit too unnecessarily. So I might not even, maybe that sounds like it might be a bit too, I think in general this D just doesn't sound like it's good, so I might just keep it at, unless maybe the song gets into a really, really dark and maybe mysterious mode, I might add in a, so use your ears and use your discretion, but don't use thick chords unnecessarily. Like really just a few notes will do, especially if it's warm, because otherwise it's just gonna cloud and get really muddy and ugly and it's just not a nice sound. So use your ears, use your discretion, and judge accordingly. Now my very final set of do's and don'ts will be try suspensions and don't just stick to the same simple way of playing chords every time, but otherwise it gets boring. So what I mean by suspensions will be something like this. Can you see what I just did there? Like the G just went down one step and resolves to an F sharp. And then I might do another suspension in chord 4 so that A kind of suspends down, resolves down to a G, and maybe I can even let go of the A. So something like, yep, tried to use a couple of suspensions in there, and it's all really complex. Now I probably won't play that like on the get-go with like a brand new worship song. I might only do that maybe towards the end when, or maybe I've played a simple version long enough and then I feel like, okay, we gotta repeat this so many times but I don't want to do the same thing again. Then I'm going to throw in some of these suspensions just to create like richer harmonies. So I really hope you'll give these a try. Now, if this was helpful to you, be sure to let me know in the comments below and like the video, give it a thumbs up if it was helpful, share it with other worship keyboardist friends, and share it with your worship team, with your worship ministry. I just hope that it will really enhance the sound of worship everywhere. And if you have some other ideas or you just want to share what you think about the video, let me know in the comments. I also want to talk about what the Inspired Keys Academy is. It is a place where it could help you if you feel kind of like you're struggling with your worship keys playing at the moment. Maybe you're just kind of deflated, you're kind of stuck, you don't know what to do next in your playing, you want to get to the next level but you don't know how. Now, if you join as an Inspired Keys Academy member, not only do you get to access the 31 Days to Better Worship Keyboard Playing ebook or you get to access all the training videos, teaching videos that I've created on step-by-step guides on how to play worship keys on a variety of topics. You also get to ask me questions on any worship keys questions you have, or you can even ask me to critique your playing. Now, to join as a member for the Inspired Keys Academy, just head over to inspiredkeys.com/join. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care and God bless.